Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Guess what? We finally get to talk about another video gaming console, and funny enough, this is the first time I'm ever talking about this specific console. Now, I've talked about obviously the Xbox 360, the Xbox One S, One S, One X, Xbox Series X even, but I've never even talked about this specific console, and I've owned it for like a year and a half now, and I meant to review it last year, but for some reason I never got the time to do it. But today we finally get to talk about the Xbox, the original one, the OG one, the one that came out many years ago, and we're going to see how it holds up in 2020. Now, obviously, I'm going to be honest, this thing is an OG, and my voice just cracked there, and because of that, I'm not really going to say whether it's still worth it or not, because it is 100% still worth it. It's a collector's item. Obviously, like, it doesn't really compare to like the Xbox One X that we have nowadays, but funny enough, I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to make a lot of people mad, and I'm going to get so many things wrong in this video, because I didn't really grow up with the Xbox, at least this one, so I don't really know too much about it. I just had to do my research on it, so if I get things wrong or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. You can be mean about it or whatever. That way, when I go and make another video like this next year, probably, I can go and correct those mistakes. But when I hold the original Xbox, right, and I was like messing around with like my Xbox 360s and my Xbox One S's and all those ones, dude, honestly, the build quality is still kind of the same, if I'm being honest. Like, of course the structure is the same, like you can't really change a rectangle that many times, but they're still like pretty much the same build quality, which was surprising. I wasn't expecting that. Of course, the newer Xbox One X's are much better and they can do so much more, but this one still kind of surprised me, which is pretty amazing. Now, the original Xbox, and I'm reading this a lot from Wikipedia, so it might sound familiar, but this Xbox came out 18 years ago, back in 2001. Now, some were released in 2001, some were released in 2002. The specific one, it really doesn't even matter. Now, this was technically the first gaming console made from an American company since 1996, so there was a bit of a gap. The Atari Jaguar was the first one to go, and then the Xbox came out after that. And I think the Xbox series is the best-selling series of gaming consoles from an American manufacturer, and when this thing came out in 2001, it was pretty much competing with the PlayStation 2, the Dreamcast, which I wasn't expecting to see that there, and as well as the GameCube. Now, between all those, I probably, I have so much love for Nintendo, and I'll probably side with the GameCube side of things first. But for sure, the Xbox definitely, has a lot going for it as well, and it definitely has some cooler things going for it. Now, funny enough, the name Xbox actually came from Microsoft. Obviously, Microsoft named it, but it was a reference to the DirectBox, which was part of Microsoft's graphics API, which was DirectX. So that's pretty crazy. The DirectX box pretty much birthed the name of Xbox, which is so crazy because, we're so used to saying Xbox, but it actually stemmed from Microsoft's piece or part that they were using it. Now, one of the biggest advantages for the Xbox, especially now in 2020, that pretty much stemmed the whole, not only I would say mobile gaming, but just multiplayer gaming in general, was Xbox Live. And I mentioned this a lot in my Xbox 360 videos, and I have every single Xbox 360 iteration as well as all the Xbox Ones that I'm going to be reviewing already. I've already reviewed the 360, but this one had the Xbox Live built in, which allowed you to play games with or without a broadband connection. So I'm confused as to how you would play it without a broadband connection. I'm guessing that's like an internet connection. So if I got that wrong, let me know. But regardless, that's actually a super cool thing. But eventually Sony released their own online service, which kind of competed with it. But the Xbox Live was first. And however, the biggest problem was that the Xbox Live, you actually had to pay for the online multiplayer option, aka Xbox Live. However, the PlayStation's online service was free. Nintendo kind of had their own like online service thing, but it really wasn't popping as much as like Xbox's or Sony's at the time. The biggest thing was that, like I said, PlayStation's was free, and look at how we're at now in 2020. Basically, every single online multiplayer platform you have to pay for, except really for the Switch. That's still kind of free, but I don't really think a lot of people do that right now. But I think there's still a pretty big demographic for people playing on their Xbox One X's or PlayStation's online. You look at all these different online multiplayer games, you basically need an Xbox Live membership or a Sony PlayStation membership in order to play those things online in like a PSN account, which is so crazy. And that really stemmed the whole mobile gaming platform as well because of those things, which is so crazy. Now, I've talked so much about the back end of the Xboxes and everything, and I'm holding it right now, so you might hear it creak. And I lost the controller too, which I'm kind of mad about. But looking at the front of the Xbox, you can see we have the power button on the front, as well as 4 different controller inputs. So we're able to plug in 4 different controllers at one time, which is really cool. You also have the eject button for the CDs, which is awesome. Nothing on the top or bottom for the most part, except for the Xbox logo up top. And on the back, we had that audio video input and output, which is awesome, or mostly an output, an Ethernet port, and an AC adapter, which, everything has an AC adapter that you have to plug into. And that really pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside. It was pretty minimal. And really the whole type of design carried over to all their other Xboxes ever made. Of course, the design changed, but the whole entire, slim rectangular design pretty much stayed the same. Whereas on Sony, you can see they really changed up the way they kind of design those specific consoles, which was really, really cool. Now, super interesting thing about the Xbox was actually about the pricing structure. So as we know, Sony, mostly gaming consoles nowadays are the same price, but there was a time where some gaming consoles were way more expensive than the other ones, and they did a lot of weird things. Now with the Xbox, the original one, it started off with $299 price tag. As of now, I bought this thing like 2 years ago, like I stated, for like $30, $20 probably with shipping. So I don't know how they probably lost money selling it to me, but this thing was selling for that price. And even now, if you look at the Xbox 360, it kept that same price tag for the base model, but with the Xbox One, they actually kind of changed up the pricing structure a little bit. They started off, instead of that $299 price tag, they actually sold it for $399. And I think that's why the original Xbox One, it definitely was a really good selling console, but it really didn't necessarily sell as many as the Xbox 360. I think that has a lot to do with, first of all, the pricing structure, but also marketing, especially coming from the Xbox 360 Connect. That whole entire series kind of did a weird thing. Eventually, they kind of sold more, I would say, for the Xbox One S and One X. And that mostly has to do with the price tag. They lowered the price tag down with the One S, which was a successor to the One, which is pretty interesting. But that whole pricing structure pretty much stemmed from the Xbox. And really, I went on whole tangents here and everything. But what I can tell you is that in terms of the original Xbox, it really did a number for Microsoft. This was them really stepping up, setting their tone for what they want for a gaming console. And even now in 2020, all these gaming consoles that are coming out, especially from Microsoft, have a little bit of bits and implementations of the original Xbox, which is really cool. The games for this thing also were on a whole nother level. I would say compared to other gaming platforms at the time, especially things like the GameCube, the Xbox was able to play these heavier intensive games, and also having that capability of playing online multiplayer games was really a humongous advantage. And I think in 2020 we kind of take that for granted, but back in 2002 there weren't really a lot of multiplayer games being played back then, and if they were, I'm sure they were like kind of online internet games, just like people would play on their internet browsers like Internet Explorer or whatever the other ones were at the time. The Xbox was a fully dedicated console, and coming from the previous generation of consoles like the PlayStation 1s, you pretty much didn't have capability of playing online, whereas on the Xbox you did, and the gaming selection for this thing was pretty big as well. We got all those Halos, we got a lot of those different Spyro games, which were really cool, I guess. Need for Speeds, and really this console lasted for quite a bit of time. It eventually got discontinued, and I think the Xbox 360 definitely held up better long term than the Xbox, the original one, but that isn't necessarily, to take a knock on the Xbox at all. There was always some bad blood between the Xbox and Sony's, and obviously PlayStation 2 and that whole entire thing, and I always felt like the Nintendo GameCube was just kind of there on the side, like it didn't really do anything. It had a huge market share for like the gaming consoles, and eventually the Wii totally annihilated the sales of that specific era, but I still think the Xbox is a crazy console, and the games in and of itself definitely make up the console, and the controller itself was really cool as well. You were able to play with 4 different controllers at one time, and I think there were adapters to make them wireless, or you could get wireless controllers as well. As you can see, I'm not like an expert on the Xbox series, but it's still pretty impressive at what Microsoft was able to do at the time. And yeah, they were known as like a computer company and like owning Windows and all that stuff, but they eventually kind of broadened their scope and were able to release something like this. And I'm sure if you kind of look at it, there were more little bits and pieces to the story, but it's definitely an interesting saga of the original Xbox, and there's always more to the story. Like I stated, it eventually got discontinued in 2005, and the Xbox 360, this is a funny story, the original Xbox 360 was actually announced on MTV, which is probably the worst way of announcing something, but it is what it is. I'm not too bitter about it. Obviously, I don't even think I was remembering at the time in 2005, but regardless, the Xbox has my seal of approval. I mean, this was the first one. It's so insane at what this thing was able to do at that time, and to see where we're at now in gaming consoles, like I'm telling you, the biggest thing and the biggest movement that the Xbox probably brought was the online multiplayer games with Xbox Live. That is one of the biggest things that we still see a huge hit in pop culture. Is just sitting down playing NBA 2K or playing Call of Duty or even playing Fortnite. And maybe, just maybe, if the Xbox wasn't released, it would have definitely have slowed down the progress of online multiplayer gaming. Look at things like Fortnite, you look at things like PUBG, even those games are free and you don't necessarily need to have like an Xbox Live membership or a PSN account or anything. Well, you need a PSN account to download it, but you don't necessarily need to pay the money to play it online. We wouldn't have been able to gotten that type of technology, or at least that far into it, had we not gotten Xbox Live from the beginning with, or even had Sony doing their free multiplayer gaming too. So that really pretty much covers it. I was like all over the place here, but I didn't have a script. I'm really just reading as I'm going. If you guys have any questions or you have any experience with the original Xbox, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear your experience with it. You probably have way more experience than I do, so I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Hit the like button if you guys enjoyed the video, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count. So it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.